Bible study tip number 6, study Ecclesiastes. Every now and again, I not only hear people asking about, I even hear people accusing the Bible of not directly addressing atheism. And what's amazing is if you read and study the book of Ecclesiastes, that's exactly what Solomon is doing. And I'm going to show you a couple examples. So when you come to passages like the one above, where it says, "What profit has a man from all his labor?" This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1, by the way. "In which he toils," and pay attention to that phrase right there, "under the sun." Every time when you're studying Ecclesiastes and you see that word, the words "under the sun," what Solomon is doing is he is stepping you aside from the reality of God. What Solomon is doing when you study those portions where he mentions that, he is talking about life with no purpose, which is why right above it where he says vanity of vanities, he's not talking about a vanity that you sit in front of and apply, your makeup, your hair products, whatever. The word vanity is vain, useless, pointless, emptiness. And he's taking it to the superlative meaning the highest degree, where he says vanity of vanities, the uselessness of uselessness, or no purpose. What Solomon is addressing in the book of Ecclesiastes, and this is why it's such an amazing book, is he is distinguishing one side, which is atheism, versus the other side, which is theism, we would call as Christianity, and comparing the two. And you'll notice that he'll talk about such and such under the sun, and then he'll mention God, and he'll mention, purpose, and he'll mention life after death, and so forth. And so Solomon is actually comparing the two. The reason why you want to study this, why this is so important, is because of the vast difference between atheism and theism. Obviously, again, for us, it's Christianity. But what he reveals at the end of his, at the actual end of the book itself, I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But he reveals what some of the most atheists are scared to admit, that if you push atheism to its final conclusion, there is, in a literal sense, is no purpose in life. So the comparison in Ecclesiastes with why it's so important is the polarity of no purpose in all of life versus absolute purpose with your relationship with God. And what's amazing is Solomon gets to the end, and we're talking about one of the single most intelligent men that has ever lived. Also one of the richest men to this day that's ever lived as well. This man, when you read Ecclesiastes, he did things that we can't even imagine doing with all the riches that he had. And he gets to the bottom line conclusion of atheism and says it's all useless, it's pointless, there's literally no reason. But see, atheism will not admit that unless you're actually honest enough with yourself. So when you come to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, and I'm going to ruin the ending for you, but you'll notice that it says the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. And then it talks about the preacher sought to find acceptable words, what was written was upright, words of truth. And what Solomon is telling us there really is, he's dipping into epistemology, which is the science of how you know what you know. He is saying that he didn't come up with the information, he found it, he arranged it. And look at verse 11 in Ecclesiastes 12, where it says, "The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well-driven nails, given by one shepherd." One shepherd. That points to God. What he is saying is that all truth, that is actual truth, objective truth, unaffected by man's opinion, comes from God. Now, if all truth comes from God, what do you think Solomon's bottom line conclusion for all of life is? Well, if you continue in Ecclesiastes 12 and you come to the end of it, you'll notice he says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter." And what he's talking about, if you read the book, it's 12 chapters long, it doesn't take that long to read. He's talking about all of life. He addresses all aspects of life. And he says, the conclusion of the whole matter, aka the conclusion of all of life: fear God, keep his commandments, for this is man's all. Or your version may say the chief end of man. What he is saying is the entire purpose of life. When people ask that question, what is the meaning of life? It doesn't take hours and hours of deep philosophical inquiry. It takes one verse: for this is man's all. Now again, we're talking about purpose. So rightfully and purposefully, Solomon gives us the purpose. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. I urge you, if you are one who commonly comes in contact with people of either different religions or atheism, and in a technical sense, if you are a Christian, all other religions are atheism, because an atheist is somebody that does not believe in God. If there's only one true God and they don't believe in the one true God, then they don't believe in God at all. Therefore, they're an atheist. But this book is very important because it's going to help you reach out to those and to reason with those who attach themselves to atheism but are not willing to admit that they are living on borrowed capital. And by that I mean they are wanting to live life and enjoy it. They want to live with purpose. They don't want to admit there's an ultimate purpose. They want everybody to live with a sense of morality where we won't just walk around stealing and murdering people, but they don't want to admit where that morality comes from. Again, the final chief end of man is to fear God, keep his commandments. And that fear is not just to be afraid, but it's to have a healthy reverence of the Most High. I hope this helps you. More to come.